Welcome back, it's me, Lou. Today will be a special video as I talk about the Mandalorian and Grogu movie. Alright, so I just got out of the theater and I saw the new film and I thought it was fantastic. Now, just to warn you, there will be spoilers. I repeat, there will be spoilers. I kind of feel like I can't do a review and not have spoilers. So if you haven't seen the movie yet and you don't want it spoiled, turn this video off and just come back to it later once you've seen the movie. Alright, so I absolutely loved the movie. My first impression of the film coming out of it was this really felt like a kid's adventure. And when I say that, I kind of say that in the sense that if I was like maybe 7 or 8 years old and if I saw this movie, I'd be in complete love with it. It was very fun, it was very lighthearted, but at the same time I kind of feel like if you're an adult, there's a lot to take in, and I just thought it was just fantastic. They didn't pull any punches back when it came to like the action and the violence. Of course, Grogu is just completely adorable, and the Mandalorian is badass as always. The production of the film was amazing. Going into the movie, I was kind of misled thinking that it would feel like the TV show in terms of the production. But once you see the film, you could tell it's definitely leveled up. Everything's bigger and better. They built a lot of practical sets for this film, and it really shows all of the hard work and tender, loving care they put into the film. Everything from all the aliens to all the props, the costumes, and all the special effects. I thought it was amazing. In terms of the story kind of surprised me. It wasn't necessarily like one of those big save the universe kind of stories. It was really a story about, the relationship between like a father and a son, and also, this kind of like the adventures they go on. I kind of feel like, if you've never seen the show, but if you have an idea of who the Mandalorian is and who Grogu is, the movie is very accessible. You don't necessarily have to be a hardcore Star Wars fan to enjoy the film. The pacing of the film was really well done. It was a little bit on the long side, but when the action picked up, it really picked up. And the slower moments, they didn't necessarily drag on, and they felt a little bit more, for lack of a better term, almost like meditative, if that's a real word. It just felt like whenever the movie got slow, it felt slow for a reason. It felt very intentional. It gave you time to breathe. It kind of gave you time to like take in the moments. And, anytime it'd pick up from there, it was kind of like a good reset. So the movie, it was fun. It was filled with lots of action. If you're a Star Wars fan, there's so many cool things to look out for in terms of Easter eggs, aliens, and characters. Rada the Hutt was a big surprise for me. I didn't realize he'd play such a big role in the film. If you're a fan of the old Star Wars, the Clone Wars, you'll remember old Stinky, from the original animated feature. And it was kind of cool seeing him brought to life on the big screen. It kind of reminded me a lot of Gracchus the Hutt. If you're familiar with the Star Wars comic books produced by Marvel, Gracchus the Hutt was this huge, muscular Hutt, much like Rada was in this film, especially with the gladiatorial scenes. I thought that was pretty cool. In terms of the gladiatorial scenes, you kind of see a lot of it in the trailers and the commercials, which was kind of disappointing. Even though the visual effects are really high up there, I kind of was somewhat disappointed in the gladiatorial arena. It felt very claustrophobic, and it didn't feel as real as some of the other set pieces. Like when they're on Nal Hutta, some of the scenes there were just awesome and really breathtaking. The scenes in the city looked fantastic, but the gladiatorial arena, it just felt very flat. It felt very computer generated in certain areas. But that's not to take away this from the scene whatsoever. All the action in the gladiatorial arena was amazing. There were some cool scenes in action that kind of really echo back to like Attack of the Clones, especially with all the different monsters from the Dejarik holochess table. I thought that was really cool. Zeb Orrelios is in the movie, so if you were a fan of Rebels and Zeb, you can get a lot of Zeb in this film, and I thought it was awesome. But the whole time I saw Zeb, all I could think of is whatever happened to Agent Kallus. If you watch the old Rebels cartoon, towards the end, Kallus and Zeb kind of formed this relationship. And I thought it would be cool if Kallus appeared in the movie, but that wasn't really the case. Speaking of other Rebels, Sigourney Weaver was a very pleasant and enjoyable character in the film. It was so cool to see such an iconic science fiction character from another franchise, from the Alien franchise, being brought into the Star Wars universe. And I thought that was just amazing. And toward the end of the film, too, there's this really adorable scene where Grogu kind of like gives Sigourney Weaver like a salute. And I kind of felt like that was almost like a nod to the Aliens film by James Cameron. When you see Newt wearing the helmet, and then she kind of like says affirmative. So I thought that was kind of a cool little Easter egg if that was intentional. It was really cool also seeing the droids of the Trade Federation. It's kind of like, since the prequel era is over, it's kind of cool to see that a lot of these droids are now kind of like mercenaries in service to the Hutts. And it's kind of cool seeing them walk around like in their capes and kind of like all these like furs, and I don't know, they kind of had a very like almost like pirate Viking kind of look and feel to them. So I thought that was kind of neat. Overall, I thought the movie was fantastic. It's a little bit on the long side, and the movie tends to get kind of dark, not necessarily in terms of themes, but it's just a dark movie. A lot of the scenes are at night or like they're in a cave or something like that. But the movie is awesome, lots of cool visual effects, and if you're a fan of The Mandalorian, I don't think you'll be disappointed. It was such a fun adventure. But it made me realize a few things. Like for one, The Mandalorian as a character, as badass as he is, he's a very, very dry and this very flat character. He doesn't have a whole lot of personality. He has no charm or charisma to him, which is kind of ironic because if you ever see Pedro Pascal, especially during all this media tours, he's always dancing around and he's always looking like he's having a great time. But when he's on film in the movie, he's always so kind of like somber and like serious. And I understand why they had the Zeb character also, because Zeb isn't like the Mandalorian. The Mandalorian always has this like metal helmet on, so you never see his facial expressions. But since he's partnered up with Zeb, Zeb is a lot more expressive. He's a lot more animated. So for what the Mandalorian lacks in terms of like personality, you kind of see that made up for in Zeb and also Grogu. And Grogu, it's really cool to see the character grow, especially if you've known the character since the first episode of the series. Grogu can really hold his own now, not only in terms of like a character in the movie, but also just seeing the depth and the layers in the character as he continues to grow and get older. So I thought that was really fun. And another fun thing with Grogu is his relationship with the Anzellans. For me, that was kind of like the biggest highlight of the film. Anytime the Anzellans are on the screen, they just steal the show. They always have the funniest one-liners, and it just cracked me up throughout the whole movie. And yeah, it was awesome. I dug it a lot. And I think, like I said, I think if you're a Star Wars fan, you're going to enjoy it. If you have little ones, I think it's going to be a fun ride for everyone. And yeah, I can't stress enough how much I enjoyed the film. It's not the greatest Star Wars film of all time. For me, I think my favorite Star Wars film is always going to be A New Hope, followed by Rogue One. I thought those are two of my favorite Star Wars films. I'm also a big fan of the prequels. Phantom Menace, I think Phantom Menace for me is my favorite of the prequels, but I don't think it's the best done. I think Sith is probably the best produced of the prequel films. And this movie, it's awesome. It's a good time, and I'm just stoked to see Star Wars back on the big screen where it belongs. Even though it's cool to be able to stream it at home on your TV or on your phone, there's just something very magical about seeing it on the big screen. That's how Star Wars is meant to be seen. And as you can see here, I've fully embraced the movie and all the crazy merchandise and memorabilia. If you haven't watched it already, I reviewed the AT-AT popcorn bucket, which is awesome. It's pretty hot right now too. Some theaters in my area have already sold out on this. And after the movie, I was so stoked on the movie. We went to Burger King and I got the Bounty Hunter bundle, which came with all this stuff, except it didn't come with a toy. So I got to get the kids meal if I want the toys, but it was kind of cool getting like the novelty Star Wars shake and the fries and even like the novelty Whopper burger. So if you get a chance, if you have like a Burger King near you, check it out and check out all the cool Star Wars eats. So yeah, can't recommend the film enough. good time, and you know, let me know what you think. You know, if you think the movie was awesome, let me know down below. If you had issues with it, please let me know. I don't think the movie was perfect by any means, but it was definitely a fun ride. All right, so let's wrap this one up. Once again, my name is Lou. If you're new to my channel, welcome. If you're a returning viewer or subscriber, thank you so much for your continued support. I greatly appreciate it. So until the next video, be safe, take care of yourself, and buy lots of toys, and I will talk to you later.